acting as your moderator this evening. This is like a high school dance. Everybody's like spread all over. If you want to come down, join your neighbors, please feel free to do so. So welcome. First and foremost, thank you very much to Thompson Together for sponsoring this community forum to showcase all of the candidates who have volunteered to run for an election for Tuesday, November 4th. Thank you to the audience, especially for coming out this evening on a beautiful fall evening, and also to our audience who is Zooming in this evening. Now, for just a couple of the rules. We ask all candidates, as well as the audience, to remember your manners. All members are asked to maintain propriety in civil language and deeds at all times, and that includes me. So, you all have a handout, I think, this evening that go over the rules and that kind of thing. You will see the questions projected on this screen. That is for the benefit of the audience to be able to constantly see the question that's being asked, as well as the candidate, and they're really doing it so I don't forget it. So, I think we will get started, and as you all know, each candidate gets an opening statement this evening, and that will be 2 minutes long. And first of all, let me introduce the candidates. For the Board of Finance, we have Steve Herbert, we have Brian Lafredo, Rob Werge, we have Ken Bosley, who is running for a 2-year fill-in, and Mr. Nathan Lanke, who is also running for a 2-year term. This evening, he is running a little bit late for some family concerns this evening. So if he comes a little bit later, we will just put him right into the next question that comes out. So we will begin this evening in alphabetical order. Your opening statement, Mr. Herbert.
Good evening. I'm Steve Herbert. Let me also voice my appreciation to the audience both here and on Zoom. Thank you for attending this event. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 25-year resident of Thompson. I'm currently a member of the Board of Finance and am completing a 6-year term. I've also served on the Board of Selectmen for 4 years. I'm a member of the Board of Directors for Teague, and I've been an ambassador for Teague for many years. I earned a Bachelor of Science degree with emphasis in engineering and a master's degree in business administration. And I think we should operate our town like a business, providing service to our residents in an efficient manner, like a good business would. I'm a veteran. I served 6 years of active duty, 3.5 years in Europe and Germany, and 1 year in Korea. I earned an Army Commendation Medal and an Airborne to Parachute badge. I left the service as a captain. In business, I worked for a Fortune 500 company, initially as a financial analyst, then as a plant controller, a supervisor of planning and control, and a business manager. I also worked for American Optical in finance and management roles. I worked as a VP of finance for a Miller company in New Hampshire, and I joined a consulting firm where I worked with troubled companies, financially troubled companies, those sometimes facing bankruptcy or other financial strain. I also earned a CMA with distinction. CMA is Certified Management Accountant, similar to a CPA. I earned it with distinction, which means I was one of the top 15 candidates of the roughly 20,000 or so that take the certification test each year. Thank you.
Next, we have Brian Lafredo.
Good evening. My name is Brian Lafredo, and I've got to say, wow, it's an honor to be on stage with the experience sitting on both sides of me. I've only been in town for 11 years, but maybe this year that's the point. New perspectives, new choices. I live here with my wife and daughter, a TMS and Tortolak grad with her degree from Worcester State. I helped raise 4 stepchildren with my late first wife. I went to a private high school. All my kids went to a public school. I have degrees in psychology and counseling and 40 years of business experience in retail management. As a store manager, I've been responsible for establishing and adhering to budgets, line by line, ranging from $10 million to $65 million a year. Not just annual budgets, weekly and monthly, complete with monthly P&L statement reviews and accountability. As a member of management teams, I've been part of business units doing up to $90 million a year. This is all to say I'm not inexperienced at these processes. I have followed the budget process in town for several years, and as a father of a former and successful student in town, I've taken an active interest in trying to help the town succeed to the benefit of all, town and citizens, as an active board member and a taxpayer. Time limits my ability to list my activities. I may add those in summation, or you can refer to my campaign biography. I may not have the experience that these gentlemen have in Thompson's particular unique issues, but I feel I can bring a perspective and prior knowledge that can benefit the town. Thank you.
Rob Wirge.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Is my mic working? Great.
There.
Good evening. My name is Rob Wirge. I'm a longtime registered Republican, and I'm running for my second term on the Board of Finance. I want to thank Thompson Together, the RTC and DTC, my fellow candidates here at the table, and all the residents in Thompson here and online this evening. I've lived in Thompson for over 50 years, and I truly love my town. I grew up here, I raised my children here, and I care about the future of Thompson. After high school, I earned a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Connecticut, and I spent 37 years working in contract manufacturing, with the last 20 years as a business leader, responsible for large-scale budgets, company profits, and capital expenditures. I'm currently the president and CEO of a large medical device contract manufacturer with sales of over $150 million, 800 employees, and 8 sites in the United States and Costa Rica. I volunteer in many ways to give back to my community. In addition to the Thompson Board of Finance, I'm on the Trinity Foundation Board, which is Mariannapolis. I'm on the Putnam EMS Board for the town of Thompson, and I'm also a board member of the Turtlehead Trust. I currently serve as the chairman of the Board of Finance in Thompson, and over the last 6 years, I've always strived to be very thoughtful and careful during each budget cycle. When tough cuts were needed, I looked across all departments and made difficult choices by balancing and minimizing the impact of those cuts to the town services. I feel the 2 most important goals for the Board of Finance are proper governance and solvency for our town. Governance is to ensure that we are compliant to our audit requirements, and solvency is to maintain the health of the town through an adequate surplus. I ask for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before Ken gets his opening statement, I was remiss in introducing our 2 timekeepers in the front row. Thank you very much for volunteering your services and taking the night out. And they will be flashing cards for 15 seconds, 10 seconds, and 5 seconds. And remember, gentlemen, they are the most important people in the room. Thank you. Ken, go ahead.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Thompson Together, for putting this on. We've done many of these over the years. I'm currently on your Board of Selectmen, just be completing, as of November 4th at this next election, my 14th year on the board. So I am going to be bringing 14 years of preparing budgets, understanding the town side, asking the tough questions, and also working with the school over these past 14 years. I am a lifelong resident of town. I still reside here with my wife. I'm also very happy to be a senior citizen now as well. So I do understand the balancing of a budget that affects everyone in town, asking the tough questions, looking for solutions to get things done, looking also for proper planning moving forward in order to educate our students, provide the infrastructure that we need at the most affordable rate, and still meet the requirements that the state imposes on us. We're also going to be having a brand-new Board of Selectmen, which is going to be the first time in many, many years. And they will be coming on with limited knowledge of how a town does run because they have not done a budget. So I feel that the 14 years of doing a budget will be very beneficial to ask the tough questions that I may already know, that they don't, so that way we can get the answers that we need. And we will continue to be a neutral observer of the budget, putting forth what we need as a town to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Beausoleil. Wow. Okay. So for the first question, we have, what is your strategy for funding short-term and long-term town needs, such as infrastructure and facility improvements, while mitigating impacts to our taxpayer? And Brian LaFredo, you're going to be taking that first question.
Thank you, Delpha. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thompson together as well. That's a really good question and a difficult question to answer for a Board of Finance member, as we're typically given budgets from different departments, and we have to judge what is reasonable, what is wish lists, what is going to be needed by the town, and yet not put citizens of the town in a bad position with overtaxation. A lot of the strategy, which is one of the things I did not get to speak about, my volunteer work, has to do with my work on the EDC and MISRAC, in that I have been working for years with some of the people on the stage to hopefully bring more business in downtown, to increase our grand list, to increase our tax base, so that we can meet short-term and long-term needs. That's the key. We need more business. I know Andrew Irby, our candidate, has spoken eloquently about strategies to bring business into town, and that's where we have to go. We need money to be able to afford more things short-term and long-term.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, thank you. It is a good question. Short term, I mean, first we need to look at those requirements that the town must fulfill. So there's obligations that are contractual through unions. There's buildings we must heat. There is fire and EMS, and there's other services that are not discretionary. We have to take care of those first. Then beyond that, in the short term, it becomes choices. It becomes options of what we want to do. What's most important to the people in this room? What's most important to the people in our town? And then we need to shift and make decisions based on that, because the fundamental idea that we can do everything is really just not practical. We can't afford to do everything. So in the short term, I really believe it's about prioritizing those things that we feel as a community that are most important. Again, those things being the ones that are discretionary. Long-term can be handled in a number of different ways. For example, we started early in my 6 years. I had initiated a municipal building fund. This was built off of what the library had been doing for years. And we fund that every year so that we have money in that fund when grants come forward. We have matching money to be able to act quickly. And that's a way to get out in front of some of the bigger long-term expenditures of the town. That's not the only way to do it. Other means are through bonding, and we tend to do that with bigger capital expenditures like equipment, et cetera. Thank you.
Mr. Beausoleil.
Thank you for the question. The normal everyday operations of the town is very simple and straightforward. The things that we can't predict are healthcare, our utilities, electricity, oil, because that is a moving target depending on what the current market is doing. Wages are usually a contract that goes out, and we kind of have a good handle on that when that moves forward. When you're talking long-term, we need to start and request from the Board of Selectmen the long-term planning, where we are on town infrastructure buildings, roads, et cetera, of those nature, when we need to replace a truck, and prioritize those so that way when they present their budget and list their needs, we as a Board of Finance can look at that and see what we can afford to spend and what we possibly can defer to a later date. And that happens every budget cycle, as we have seen going forward. And that's usually the moving target. There are a number of ways of funding that. There can be bonding, and maybe something that we may need to look at because of the conditions of the road and do a long-term bond to do X number of miles of road. These are the type of things that the Board of Finance needs to look at. We also look at, when it's equipment, whether or not we want to do a lease purchase or turn around and we can afford that piece of equipment and not pay that interest. Just like we do in our households is what we need to do as a Board of Finance. Same thing with the school infrastructure up at the building as well. Key to that in any budget moving forward is what the revenues are coming into the town. And that is what we need to also focus on to get where we need to go.
Mr. Herbert.
Unfortunately, when it comes to infrastructure, we've been kicking the can down the road for many years. Rob mentioned one thing that we have done over the last few years, which is to take a good idea, which was funding the potential need to repair the library roof and putting money aside for that over the years. That's been expanded now, so we have some funds available to take advantage of any grants that might come up that require matching or partial matching of funds in order to get those grants. So we now have not much, but we have some funds available to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's one thing we've done and should help us address the need for improving our infrastructure going forward. But again, we have kicked the can down the road on so many things. I wish there was an answer that wasn't involving paying some taxes. I'm afraid we have to look at that as well. We have to prioritize what we need to do what we have to do first. But that's how we're going to have to approach our need for improving and getting our infrastructure up to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Each candidate will now have a 1 minute, not really a rebuttal, but if they want to add more information to this question, you now have that opportunity.
Well, that was great input. Once again, I have a lot of experience around me, and they have dealt with this directly. I have watched meetings and made comments in meetings, but these guys do have a lot of experience behind them. I will say on the infrastructure part, I do want to give credit to our current Board of Selectmen, especially Amy. She reached out and got an expert to prioritize the roads and what was needed. and up through last year was keeping to that timeline, and we've seen great improvements. Unfortunately, in the battle of the budget this year, the roads were one of the first things that took a hit. We need to get back on that timeline, otherwise down the road, it's going to be tough to catch up. Thank you.
Mr. Wirch.
Yeah, I don't need a full minute, but I would add that in addition to what the departments put forward for short-term and long-term spending and needs, there's a part of the responsibility on the townspeople too. I mean, we need to listen to what the town people want and what they make as a priority. And if that's better roads, then we need to look at funding our roads and our infrastructure better. Again, I don't believe we can do it all. The wish list is much, much too long and it's unaffordable. But it needs to be a conversation and a discussion so that we can learn as a board what's really most important to the people of the town of Thompson.
Mr. Beausoleil.
Very quickly, one of the things that, having been on the Board of Selectmen, and it was touched by Mr. Wirch, that we have put funding into the library, different accounts, in order to plan for infrastructure repairs. We always strive to do that in the past, and in the future, I'm sure that the current Board of Selectmen that's going to be coming in, the new board, will also do the same thing. Unfortunately, due to budget restraints and other needs, sometimes we have failed to fund that, or we have taken money out of that in order to meet other needs. And we need to do a better job with that in order to plan for tomorrow. And that's one of the things that I intend to strive to do, as well as keep a balanced budget with everybody's needs that are concerned for.
Thank you. Mr. Herbert.
Just a brief comment to add which is basically we need to listen to our fellow townsfolk to set the priorities, do what we have to do. It's probably the major thing, setting priorities, because we can't do everything. So that's what we have in front of us.
Thank you. On to our second question. What is your opinion of the current Board of Finance communication strategy with residents, and/or would you change it? Rob Wirch, you're going to be taking that question first.
That's the hot seat. I get to go first. I'll try to be objective because I'm on the Board of Finance and responsible for a lot of the communication. I personally take it seriously when people take the time to make comments and citizen comment. They may feel frustrated that it doesn't become a citizen conversation. It doesn't become a citizen Q&A. And I've said this a number of times. It's not because I don't want to engage with them. It's because we don't have the time to do our work and have those kind of debates. However, I've also always said there is a Board of Finance email address. Reach out to me. If a townsperson takes their time and energy to write me a thoughtful email, I'm going to answer it. If it's an unthoughtful email, I'm going to answer it because I've pledged to answer every email, either with an email or in some cases I've had phone conversations with people. So there is a pathway there. I would encourage people to use that pathway. And my commitment for as long as I'm in the role I'm in, either Board of Finance or Chair of Board of Finance, I will respond to every single request that comes in through that channel. Over to you, Ken.
Thank you. Communications is one of the driving themes that has come in this election right now. It has been brought out. Mr. Irby has made reference to it. He's been watching what the difficulties have been with the 4 budget referendums and sees that as a very issue that needs to be addressed. It is a very addressed, whether it's through the Board of Finance, through the town meetings. We do hand out things at the transfer station. We do put them up on the billboard out in front of the town hall. But there are other avenues that can be utilizing social media as well, our town website, and take a page out of the school when they do their all call for cancellation of classes that day, inclement weather, et cetera. These are all options that are there. We need to explore those as far as we can to get the information out to the public every which way that we can. An educated public will be able to ask the questions of us at the Board of Finance, so that way we can answer them and not have misinformation that is going out there. So it is a very top priority. It's something that we've all strived to do, but we need to do a little bit better with that and go after some other avenues, because we have a very older population, such as that does listen to WINY, and then we have a very younger population that looks at everything in their handheld devices, and we have to figure a way to reach out to everybody. Thank you.
Steve Herbert.
Just to mention a topic that Rob discussed, which is correspondence to the Board of Finance. We have received, the Board of Finance has received correspondence from a variety of citizens, and those get brought up at every one of our Board of Finance meetings. Additionally, on occasion, we've had emails sent to all the members of the Board of Finance, and to every one of those, I have responded to that individual, talked to that individual about their concerns. So that's how we can address the need to improve the communication that we have between the Board of Finance and all the government agencies that we have and the citizens of our town. I think just in general, we just need to do a better job communicating. I wish I knew the magic answer to that. I know we have that, we provide the ability for citizens to attend our board meetings, to watch them on Zoom, to watch them after the meeting on Zoom. But maybe there's another avenue that we should explore, maybe doing more outreach to our citizens to explain the actions of our board.
Brian LaFredo.
Well, this is actually one of our favorite topics, having worked on many boards, is trying to get the word out to the citizens in town about anything, even events that we're holding like Community Day and Maker Fair. Sadly, our communication is very fragmented in town. A lot of people aren't on social media. We don't have a good way to get in touch with a lot of people. I want to give Rob credit. He's done a great job at dispelling a lot of false information that comes out on social media that has made the job of this board a lot more difficult, because we want the truth out there. We don't want people spreading rumors that are cherry-picked and not truthful. Our candidate, our Democratic candidate, Andrew Irby, is running on the 3 C's: communication, community, and commerce. We pick communication as a key because we know we can get more people on board if we can communicate with them. And one of Andrew's specialties is marketing. It is reaching out. And I'm excited to be supporting him, and I'm excited to hopefully find a plan with him that can get communication out to the community so that we're sharing the truth, not rumors that some people in town choose to spread. Thank you.
Now we have the 1-minute follow-up. Rob Word, you're first.
Thank you. I only answered half the question. I answered what it is today. I didn't offer any change or ideas. And I do have one. I think that when I reflect on the last budget cycle, after the 3rd budget failed, I got out there. I got out and communicated proactively. I say I got on the offense, right? I went and wrote letters. I went to Winnie. I spent time on the radio. Reflecting back on that and on the question, maybe that's something I should do before the first referendum. Maybe that's a proactive way. Don't wait until we're in trouble and then say, okay, now let's communicate more. People are busy. So I'd love to say, hey, it's all out there, go find it. We have meetings, come join us. But people are busy. So I think being respectful of that, I'll pledge to do a better job of getting out in front of, particularly in the budget season, getting out in front of the cycle. Thank you.
Ken Bosley.
Okay, we've always tried to get as much information as out there. I commend all of our boards and committees for doing that with what has been available to us. I think with the new administration that will be coming in, based on communications, that we may be able to find other ways of doing it to enhance what we are doing to get that out. So that way we can get a budget passed in the first referendum, not cost us more money by going multiple referendums and answering those questions.
Okay, ready for the third question? Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
I'll do a little follow-up on that in some shameless promoting. I know that the town, through the town planner, Tara, is planning an Ask Me Anything event in December, because we are reaching out to try to draw people in from the town with all our board members to be transparent, to be able to offer answers for whatever questions you have. And that is an effort that we are already planning and putting forward. And I'm excited about it, but we need people to take part in that and get the word out. So this is upcoming. I believe it's December 4th, Tara? 3rd? I can't read your fingers from here. But yeah, this is the type of thing that will hopefully propel us forward. Thank you.
Okay, on to our third question. And Ken, you will be going first on this. And the question is, should the funding to fire departments remain as is, or should the town create a fire tax district, and why? Should the funding to the fire departments remain as is, or should the town create a fire tax district, and why?
Funny that question does come up this evening. We just had it at our Board of Selectmen's meeting last night that we have been working on for a number of years. I think it's very important that, and I think it's in the best interest of our fire departments, that they do create a fire tax district in order to properly fund them. They do supply to the Board of Selectmen and then over to the Board of Finance a budget, but it gets caught up into the whole budget, and sometimes cuts are made that are very difficult to our EMS system. If you talk to anybody that is out there, they're always very supportive of our fire EMS system. What the tax district will do is take that funding out of the town side and put it into a separate line item for the tax district. All 5 departments would be there. They would be governed by a board of directors that would present their budget. From there, that budget is worked over and then is presented to the general public, which is everybody in the town of Thompson that votes. And you will have a say in that funding and know that all of that money that you put forward there is going exactly to your fire EMS service. It is probably the only way that we will properly fund them and maintain the services that they provide us being volunteers. It is so desperately needed, and it's been a long time in coming, and I'm fully in support of moving in that direction to a town meeting and get the input from our townspeople as to what they feel with that as well.
Thank you. Steve?
I'm in favor of a fire district. It would be a separate voting district covering the whole town that would provide funding and oversight to the 5 fire companies we currently have. We really do thank all the volunteer firefighters we have in town. We spend about a little over $300,000 providing support to the fire departments. I remember we had a consultant came in to discuss our fire departments. He said that the value of the fire departments to our town was in excess of $2 million. So we pay about 15% of the value we get. A fire district would allow a board of firefighters as well as town people to have the oversight to provide their funding where it's needed to avoid duplication. It does nothing but good things for the operation of our fire districts. Right now, we can have a duplication of requirements. We're facing costs that are, a fire truck costs more than $1 million. One fire truck costs more than $1 million. And currently, we're providing roughly $300,000 a year to the fire departments. We really need to address this issue, and the fire district's the way to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Lafredo.
Well, going after Ken and Steve, I don't know that there's really so much that I can add. I also feel that a tax district would be a correct move, that we can bring all the different firehouses under one umbrella, that they're working together instead of competing for money and supplies. It also serves to take it out of the general budget, which makes it less prone to the finance department being in a position where they have to save some money on a budget. Well, let's cut a little more out of the fire department. This way the citizens choose. And even the idea of a fire district, it's being asked of us, but that's not our choice. That's going to be a town meeting. That's something that's out of our hands, and we will support whatever the citizens say. But a fire district will allow the citizens to decide how much we devote monetarily to supporting our departments. And yes, as Steve said, we got great value out of this. It is amazing that we have all these fire departments, and they're pretty much volunteer. And other than equipment and required costs, Thompson is very lucky to have people committed, and I appreciate everyone that is part of that. Thank you.
Mr. Werge.
We absolutely should move to a fire district. And the reason I believe we should do that is it will fundamentally change how decisions are made. Today, we have 5 stations that each get funded exactly the same. That kind of blew me away the first time I saw that. How could all 5 have the exact same needs every year? And the answer is, even with what we fund them, it's not enough. So if you think of a fire district where all 5 stations are partnering and collaborating together, and the overarching district is funded, think about how fundamentally decisions will be made differently. Purchases of capital will be made on a plan across all 5 stations as we need it. The deployment of the assets can be handled differently under one umbrella. And there's leverage on savings. The purchases that are made at the fire station could be made across all 5 versus each individual one. And I could probably go on with additional reasons, but to me, it makes a lot of sense. I think fundamentally for the taxpayers, please understand that costs don't go away. Just because we go to a fire district doesn't mean it costs us less to have the great support that we have. Support we have to fund, and we have to pay for that to get that level of funding. But I think the process by which our tax dollars are deployed would be fundamentally different and much, much more efficient. Thank you.
Ken, 1 minute follow-up.
Thank you. Having the fire departments under one tax district will also enable them to apply for various grants as 5 departments, 1 unit, instead of 5 individuals. It'll give them more leverage when it comes to a grant because you're serving more people. You're purchasing, for fire hose, for a truck, PPE, personal protective equipment, all of that, when you buy in bulk and everybody's buying it at the appropriate times, your cost savings are there, which means more of the tax dollars for that can be better spent. When you're looking at, $500,000 for a truck, they have to have a plan in place, and they will be able to, and the district will turn around and plan ahead who needs what and when.
Mr. Herbert.
Well, I think we're all in agreement that the fire district makes sense. It's going to improve efficiency, avoid duplication, make assets, put them in the appropriate spot. I think we're all resolved on that issue. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, does anyone have anything to add? Do they want to take their time for the
I have one comment to add around fire district. Yeah, I think it's important for all of us to know that underfunded can be translated to underappreciated. And if you're part of one of those 5 fire stations and you're feeling underfunded and underappreciated, that's not a good place to be as a town. And to the value equation on what's delivered by those stations versus how we fund them, if that shifts away from a volunteer platform like EMS has, that's going to be very, very expensive to the town. So the more we can do to keep our fire stations motivated and the heart that they have, and we keep that strong, that's good for everyone in Thompson.
Thank you, gentlemen. On to our 4th question. And Mr. Herbert, you will be the first answerer. Wait for the Board of Ed on that one. What are your thoughts around the current and future of the fund balance? What are your thoughts around the current and future of the fund balance?
We have a real problem in our town. It's not unreasonable to have roughly 2 months' worth of funds in the kitty, so to speak, to handle all sorts of issues that might come up. That's about 17% of our annual budget. We don't have half that. If we remain under 5% of our annual funding in our kitty, so to speak, for, I believe it's 3 years, the state can come in and run our budget for us. Tell us what to do, tell us what the tax rate's going to be. I don't think we want that. So we definitely have to do something about our fund balance. We need to improve the amount of funds that are in that balance to handle all sorts of things, whether it's a budget that doesn't get passed promptly or a contingency that pops up that we haven't planned for. 17% is not unreasonable. That's 2 months' worth of spending. We need to get there.
Mr. Lafredo.
Rob talked a lot about fund balance when we came down through the referendums and how important it is, and I totally agreed with his stand. I believe the number was about 9% that we were at that time, and some calls were made around town on social media that we should lower taxes by taking money out of that fund and into the surplus. Well, we saw firsthand how important that can be just in a small amount. By not having that referendum, we needed money in that fund balance to continue to fund the budget as we were moving forward without an approved budget. That's one of the reasons that money is there. We ended up with a bill from EMS from the company in Putnam for $60,000. Well, how did we pay for that? We paid for it out of that fund balance. This does a lot more than just the technical things Steve mentioned about bringing the state in. I'm not here to scare people into that, but I will say that it makes common sense. You have something in your home that breaks, you probably need money or at least a line of credit to get that fixed. The town has a lot of things that could go bad. We could suddenly have to replace a town bridge. Do you think the state's going to come and bail us out? The state is dealing with money that they aren't getting from the federal government. More and more, the town needs to sustain itself, and we have to be ready for anything that might come up. We can never have that much money in our surplus to handle everything that can happen. But to let our surplus depreciate is not the way to go. And as we get extra money, if that would ever happen in a budget, we need to direct some of that to increasing the balance, just as we do with some overages in some accounts that get put into that account. Thank you.
Mr. Wirch.
Yeah, I rushed the end of my opener. I was wanting to touch on governance and solvency. And governance is around having the proper controls in place so that we pass our audits It's basically a checklist of how we do things. And that's very, very important. The second was solvency. And in a business, solvency is, the health of the business. And someone referred earlier to the town as a business, and it is a business. And we need to be solvent. We need to have the ability to pay our bills at all times. This one's really near and dear to me because I felt as I saw that surplus continue to decline in year 5, that it was down around 5, my 5th year of a 6-year term. It was down to around 5.3%. And that's remarkably low. And below 5, there is indeed a trigger where the town can come in, the state can come in and start to get involved. That's a long process. We don't want to be in that situation as a town. We're too proud to be in that situation. So I took on a very, very personal objective with the full board and with the town to drive that surplus back up. I didn't do it. We didn't do it as a board. The town and community did it. The school did it by coming in under budget and sending funds back. The town did it by coming in under budget and sending some of those funds back. We got it up to about 10%. We pulled 1% out during this budget cycle, and I voted for that. Anything more, 1.1%, I was voting no. That was $270,000 we moved from surplus over. I did that because, I agreed to that because we were up about 10%, and that pushed us down to about 9. Ultimately, 16%, 16.7 is where we want to be. 9 to 10% is far better than being down around 5. So we need to continue to work on it and comfortably get it up into the mid to upper teens. Thank you.
Mr. Beausoleil.
The town fund balance is very, very critical. Just having it that low that we've had it is unacceptable. It gives us no room for the emergency or whatever may be coming our way. Nobody expected us to go 4 referendums where we needed the money, and we were cutting it close. Several years ago, we went 5 referendums, and we ended up sending out early tax bills because we did not have enough at that time in the fund balance in order to sustain, because the state didn't have a budget. So fund balance is very critical for those unexpected events that come up. It could be a truck, it could be a building, it could be a roof, it could be a bridge that is now closed and condemned, that is not passable, which affects all of our services in town. Not only having a proper fund balance, which is recommended between, well over 10% up 13 to 15, is the bond rating that we get when we have to go out to bond for a major project. The lower our fund balance is, the more interest that we pay on that money we borrow. So by having a properly balanced fund balance, we get a better rating through, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of that. Yes, Moody's, that rates the towns for what interest rate they get. Now, we're keeping all of our budgets to the bare bones. Special education is a moving target. We don't know what will happen with that. That is the type of expense that's going to come out of fund balance. We have to have money there. And when you're looking at $700,000+ for a mill rate, it goes very quickly and it drives down that percentage.
Thank you. For our 1-minute follow-ups, Mr. Herbert.
I guess the one thing I'd be concerned about is we're facing a year, the year we're in now, that's going to make it worse. The budget was cut several times to the bare bones. I fear that the school is not going to be able to operate within the budget that they've been allotted, and they have obligations that are not, that just have to be met by law. The town itself is also squeezed tightly. I don't think there's going to be much surplus, if anything, there. So I think we're in for a tough year. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, the answer has to be that you collect more in taxes than you spend. And this coming year, I'm fearful that we're not going to be able to do that.
Mr. LaFredo.
Again, good points from Mr. Herbert. By not increasing the budget at all this year, we've again just kicked the can down the road. Inflation is still out there. Things are going to cost more again next year. We've put off our road budget. That's going to come up again next year. These things always come back to haunt us, and we will be looking at more of a budget stress next year. Fortunately, it won't be a revaluation year, but we have to look at things realistically and keep things moving forward and not keep kicking the can down the road and paying even more because it doesn't get even cheaper later on. It's going to cost more.
Mr. Wirch.
Yeah, I'm more of an optimist on this. I mentioned in my opener 37 years in manufacturing, and one of the things in manufacturing, they say that which is measured improves. And the measurement is the department budgets and the school budgets. I think if the leaders in town understand the cause, they understand the impact if we don't hit our numbers, I think they'll rally. I think they'll find a way to stay within their budgets. And let's do that this year. We'll have those meetings with the new incoming selectmen or board of selectmen, and then let's perhaps hope for a stronger budget cycle next year when we're outside of the reval, and maybe we can climb back and help replenish our paving fund.
Okay, Beth, do we have time for the fifth question? Okay, fifth question. And this will be started off by Mr. Lafredo. In 2021, the government and school budgets were combined at referendum to one vote. There continues to be calls to separate the budget. What is your stance on this topic? In 2021, the government and school budgets were combined at referendum to one vote. There continues to be calls to separate the budget. What is your stance on this topic?
Thank you, Delpha. That's really a personal view, because that's certainly not something the Board of Finance, as far as I know, can decide. That has to go out to vote to the public. My personal view is that the budget should continue to be combined. By separating the budgets, it makes primarily the education budget, a target for a group of citizens in the town that continue to ask for it to be cut. And by separating the budgets, we still have to pass them both. You can't just pass one and not the other. And I believe that history would show that we've gone through more referendums because of that, and that we could be looking at the type of thing that we had this year on, because a lot of citizens are probably in favor of keeping the town budget, which would pass, and then cutting the school budget, which puts us in a bind because we have obligations to the state, to our students, to our schools to fund that budget properly. I think the best flexibility that the Board of Finance can have is to continue with a combined budget where we can look at each line and decide what is the priority, what is needed most, and what works best for the town overall.
Thank you. Mr. Wirch.
So those that believe we should separate the budgets and the vote, the only real feedback I've heard on that is, well, that allows the Board of Finance to know where the voters are unhappy. And if that's the reason to do it, then how would we then know as a board within the town where the voters are unhappy? Do they want a bigger library and don't pave our roads? Do they want extra paving on the roads, but they want us to spend more in in the rec area or in the animal control area? So the argument to just split and say, well, that gives us guidance, I don't think that's a strong enough position to split it, because we know where the taxpayers are not happy through their voice. So it's no mystery. So I feel I absolutely support one budget, one vote. Separating the budget only separates the town, and that's not good for anyone.
Mr. Beausoleil,
Very good question. I'm actually very neutral on this question here. Whatever the townspeople decide is what I will do as a Board of Finance member and work with that at the time of the budgets being forward. No matter what, both sides of the budget has to pass regardless. It is a total budget that gets passed in the end in order to set the mill rate and move forward. There are pros and cons. There are obligations. The state has obligations. If you decide to cut the school budget and it goes below, then we lose $2 for every one that we cut the budget that way. The town side, there's so many aspects of the town. You know, the whole answer may be that we have more surveys, town informational meetings, and get information coming back from the people during the budget presentation that we do to give us some guidance in the event that it does fail. Hopefully, if we put out a reasonable budget, get our information, communicate out there, it should pass. If you looked over the years, we've been very, very lean on a budget. There isn't much room to move. And again, it's your town. Whatever you decide is what we will work with.
Steve,
I have some mixed feelings about this issue. We have to pass, if it's bifurcated, we need to pass both parts of the budget to have any of it pass. So that's a great reason to not separate the budget. On the other hand, it's hard to get any feedback. We don't have polls to conduct the feelings of our town. This isn't a very good way to get some feedback, but it is a way to get some feedback. There's probably a better, more efficient way to get that kind of information. And so at the end of the day, I come up feeling that separating the budget is a mistake. We have to pass both parts for the whole thing to pass. I've seen us vote the school budget down, and then the Board of Finance came and cut the town budget. That doesn't make sense to me. So I think we need one budget.
Brian, follow up, 1 minute.
Nothing further on this?
Nothing here, one budget.
Ken?
In the end, it is one budget that we need to pass.
Steve?
We probably would have had 8 referendums this year if we'd had separated budgets. So I'm happy we just have one.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your volunteer service to your community. I don't think anyone knows what it's like until they've done it themselves. At this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break. We have refreshment. I'm sorry? Oh, let's do closing statements. How about that? Yes, okay. Let's do that. Let's see, where did we leave off? I think, let's see. No, I think, Steve, you're up.
Well, I'll be happy to start. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for attending this evening's event. Special thanks to Thompson Transparency, to our moderator, to our question massagers or whatever. The Board of Finance plays an important role in the operation of our town. We review and analyze the financial activities of our town. We oversee a budget of roughly $30 million. We're responsible for overseeing the town's spending and, of course, establishing revenue. That means we establish the taxes. Although I spent several years in the Army, most of my career has been in finance. Everything from being a financial analyst at the start of my business career to being a senior financial professional for multi-million-dollar factories and companies. I provided financial support to troubled and sometimes bankrupt firms. I'm also have experience as a founder and owner of a small business, a retail operation selling paintball and airsoft equipment and supplies with stores in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Finally, I should mention that I have training experience to help me do the job at the Board of Finance with an MBA and a certified management accounting certification. I would appreciate your vote on November 4th. Actually, I would appreciate a vote for myself and Rob. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian, 1.5 minute closing.
Okay, I promised to give you my volunteer work, so here's the list, my little bio. Most of it is, before moving here, I had 20 years on the board of directors of the Shelton Economic Development Corporation, Shelton, Connecticut. In town, a position on the disbanded Branding and Marketing Committee, which led to a position on the Economic Development Committee. Trails Committee, soon after arrival, selected as race director for the Thompson Turkey Trot, a role I've held for about 7 years, increasing contributions by over 300%. My volunteer work caring for Jacob Cemetery and April cleanup has led me to being treasurer of Thompson Together. I did recuse myself from this event. I also volunteer for Weekend Warriors, Community Cupboard, America's 250, and Thompson Animal Shelter. I was selected as a board of director member and treasurer of the Chortelot Center for Small Business and an alternate on MISRAC. I serve at the Board of Selectmen's request on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I've already talked about my business backgrounds, so I would just say that more people should get involved, and while some people spend time criticizing on social media about our town, I get involved in our town.
Thank you. Mr. Werge, 1.5 minutes.
Well, I want to thank you, Delphi. Thank you. And again, I want to thank Thompson Together, both committees, the people of Thompson joining us this evening. I hope you found the answers informative and helpful as you decide who you want on the Board of Finance on November 4th. I also want to thank my fellow candidates here at the table. These are people that give their time and energy to serve others. And all of you on the stage this evening are givers and willing to help make Thompson a better place to live, a better place to go to school, to raise a family, and to retire. So thank you all. In closing, I'd like to appeal to all Thompson voters because the decisions I make as a Board of Finance member are for all of Thompson. I listen to the taxpayers and always keep their best interests in mind when making decisions. During budget season, I ask tough questions of all the departments. I challenge all the departments to be more efficient. I carefully balance the impact of budget cuts and how we prioritize our spending as a town. And I do that always keeping in mind the best interest for you, the residents and taxpayers of Thompson. If you want a Board of Finance member who is objective, thoughtful, trusted, and a proven leader with 6 years of experience on the Board of Finance, many years of experience managing budgets and running large-scale businesses, then please vote for me on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Thank you to the audience, the people that are out on Zoom, Thompson Together for putting this on. You do an amazing job with this every year. Thank you, Delpha, for emceeing this evening. The promise that I will make tonight, and I have been for the last 14 years on the Board of Selectmen, is to represent everybody and everybody's needs, whether you're a child or a senior citizen, because not everybody has the same wishes and wants. We will find a way to balance and get everything done within the constraints of a budget. I will continue to ask tough questions, and some of those questions I'll already know the answers. But there are questions that need to be asked. Everybody has their own interest. I wish to continue to serve my town as I have been, as I have done between the Little League and several decades on the fire departments as well. Everything that we do in this town, the wonderful town that we have, is very, very important. We have a great town, and we are moving forward. It's slow, but we will get there. I also want to thank our people that are up here on the dais with us for giving their time. Also, our candidates for the Democratic Town Committee, Democratic ticket, as well as Brian and myself, please come out, vote who you're going to, but please come out and vote.
Thank you, gentlemen. Again, great job. Take two. Refreshments are outside, 10 minutes. And your next forum will be for the Board of Education. Thank you.
Good luck. Oh, yeah, thank you. Good job.
Good job, Steve.
Thank you too, Ken. Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't expecting to be first.
Yeah,
We're all here for the same reason.
great. We're all volunteers. I'm here for the money, though. That's really.
It's so difficult, as you know.
Public speaking.
You've been on both sides.
Yep, yep.
But again,
And
I'm really,
you can make
I respect these
a case for both
I'm not trying to
sides.
take any of their
And
jobs.
there's hard choices that come in.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
you've
Yeah.
gotta hope
Thank you.
that whoever we have in front of us at the budget, that they defend or sell us why we need to support that line item or whatever it may be.
We need to figure a way to be able to sell it to the community, though.
That is gonna be the
That's-
biggest.
That's where, I don't have an answer, but we need to do that.
Yeah, and there are
Okay.
other avenues, and hopefully we can do this.
But they're on, okay. Oh, okay.
We'll get there.
Where's the green light?
You can't see it with the glare.
That one? Yeah, we can't see. That's
Yeah,
okay.
if you do that, you can see it.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so it's still, yeah.
My question though was, did you turn it off?
Don't breathe too loud. Hold your breath. It's our training for the night. Yeah, right?
Okay. Let's see.
So we're all three new, huh? We're all three new.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you again for coming for our second forum of the evening, which will be our Board of Education candidates. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Thompson Together team again for providing us with this unique opportunity. And again, thank you for all our Zoomers who are showing up online this evening, and for those who came out for the evening. So first of all, we understand the rules, and one of our candidates this evening is not able to attend, but she has a representative, Kristen Schultz, who would like to give opening remarks for our candidate. Thank you. Yes, Amanda Jean Lincoln. Yes. That's not her name, that's the candidate's name.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Jean Lincoln. I was born and raised in Thompson and graduated from Turtle Lot Memorial High School and am now raising my own family in Thompson. My son attends Thompson Public Schools. I earned my associate's degree in human services from Quinebaug Valley Community College. I completed internships in long-term care facilities in the Putnam Public Schools, where I worked alongside guidance counselors, social workers, and Head Start educators. These early experiences helped me understand how important it is to create a system of support grounded in trust and encouragement. After college, I became a certified activities director supporting seniors in assisted living facilities. I pursued specialized certification in program development, therapeutic engagement, and elder care. I serve in the Thompson Rec Department, where I support and implement programming for residents of all ages. I assist with grant writing, partnership development, and the creation of a diverse curriculum that reflects the needs and strengths of our community. From senior wellness to youth activities, I believe recreation and education are deeply connected and need thoughtful investment. I'm vice president of the Thompson Community Cupboard, formerly Weekend Warriors, helping provide meals for school-age children and addressing food insecurity among local seniors. I serve with Thompson Together, supporting cemetery preservation and community cleanup efforts. I believe showing up for each other is how strong towns are built. Education has always been a central role in my life. As a teen, I helped launch Thompson's first grant-funded teen center. Now, as a parent and community leader, I'm running for Board of Education because I believe every child in Thompson deserves access to strong academics, welcoming classrooms, and a community that stands behind them. I lead by listening, building relationships, and following through. My background and current work keeps me connected to the people I serve because I don't just work here, I live here too. My promise to all children in Thompson is to be in your corner and fight for what you deserve. I'm sorry I couldn't be here in person tonight, but I invite anyone with questions to reach out directly to me. Thank you for your time and your vote this November. Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with our opening statements with Daniela Caverly. Daniela, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniela Caverly, and I'm a proud mom of 3 kids currently enrolled at each one of the Thompson Public Schools. Over the years, I've had many opportunities to volunteer, be involved, and see real progress, which has given me a deep appreciation for our schools, teachers, staff, and students. There's good work being done, and we need to keep that momentum going. If I'm elected, I want to build on this progress. My goals are focused on the communication between our schools and the community to help everyone see that the climate and culture in our schools is changing for the better. Support initiatives that improve test scores, absenteeism, and boost overall student engagement so every student has the chance to thrive. Ensure all students, teachers, staff feel safe, welcome, and respected. Advocate for state and federal funding, especially for special education. Be transparent and physically responsible, making sure every taxpayer dollar is used wisely and efficiently. And above all, ensure that every student receives a high-quality education and feels supported every step of the way. Thank you for your time and trust, and I'd be honored to earn your support.
Thank you. Now for Melissa Dragon, your 2-minute opening statement.
Hi, my name's Melissa Dragon. I've lived in Thompson for over 20 years. I'm not sure how long you have to live here to be considered a local because people still refer to my house as the Charmino's old place. So I'm a relative newcomer compared to the generations that have lived here. But I have been here for almost 22 years and I consider Thompson my home. My bachelor's degree is in biotechnology and I learned a lot about business and finance getting my MBA from URI. My job involves training adults, which is very, very different from working with children, but as part of my job, I get to manage the outreach program where we go out to the community and teach kids in middle school, high school, and even colleges about career opportunities in the STEM field. For volunteering, I've served on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization, both as communications chair and later events and awards chair. I volunteer as a coordinator for dog adoptions, and I'm a volunteer chef for Lasagna Love, which serves meals to our neighbors in need. I've also been licensed as a foster parent with DCF since 2022, helping to support kids and their families during challenging times. So according to the governance, the BOE serves as a public voice in Thompson Public Schools. Qualifications include having a concern for public education and being able to work in the spirit of cooperation with the board, administrators, faculty, and the community to provide the finest possible school program, staff, and facilities for students. I believe I have the experience, the commitment, and the ambition to achieve just that. Education builds a foundation to lifelong learning and success for children, and I'm here to support the Board of Education in providing this opportunity for students and the community in Thompson.
Thank you, Melissa. Melissa, could you pull your mic a little bit closer to you? Thank
I
you.
should probably turn it on.
Okay, might be a good idea. Thanks. Rick Medeiros, our next candidate.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Rick Medeiros, and this is my first step into public service. Last month, while I was traveling through Montana with a friend, we got a call. And on that call, we were told about the Charlie Kirk shooting. And as we talked about that, he happened to say at the end, what matters now is what we're going to do about it. And somewhere in that conversation, I said, I think I may end up in Thompson politics. And once we got home on the following Sunday, I had another friend call and said, Thompson's looking for someone to fill a spot on the Board of Education. I think you'd be a good fit. And so I said, thanks, but no thanks. And then later, after thinking what I said on that trip, I had to call him back and say yes. So personally, I went to public schools. I worked my way through college and earned a couple of degrees in engineering. And in 2015, late in life, I earned a master's degree in organizational leadership at Nichols College. And I recently retired, or at least partially retired, in the past year after 45 years in manufacturing. So I recently moved to Thompson to be with my daughter's family and my 2 grandkids. And both of them are going to be entering Thompson School here in just a few short years. And really, they're the reason I'm here. But I'm concerned about the state of our country as well as I am about our educational system. My goal as part of the Board of Education is to look toward gaining educational excellence in what here is, which I already see, promoting traditional values and fairness and safety in the schools. I'm concerned about the lack of respect for our teachers, our administrators, and our parents, and they have to be, that's a critical item, so that they'd be able to teach our children. Finally, in the last few weeks, I've seen that the largest part of the town budget is the school budget. And that's going to be a lot of hard work to make that work.
Thank you. Just as a reminder to all of our candidates, we have our timers sitting in the front row. Again, I'll mention they are the most important people in the room. They will give you 15-second cards, 10-second cards, and 5-second cards. So just be aware. Thank you. Now we will have the envelope, please. Okay. Oh, 6 questions. Okay.
Oh, come on, guys.
All right. The questions, I will repeat them, and they will also be shown on the screen behind you. The first question will be directed for a first answer to Melissa, and then we will move on from there. So you will all have a chance to not be first. So the first question is, what do you believe is the most important characteristic for an effective school board member? What do you believe is the most important characteristic for an effective school board member?
I think the most important characteristic for a board member is the ability to listen. We're here to be the voice of the community and be the voice for the students. We need to work with the faculty, the administration, and everybody has to work together. And we're not going to learn what the needs are and how to collaborate and get to a common ground without understanding what the needs are, the whys, learning about the regulations and all the standards and policies that go into place, which I'm just getting a sneak peek of that so far, that it's very, very complicated. So being able to listen and understand and communicate is just very important to working together.
Thank you. Mr. Medeiros.
Sure. It is a great question. We hadn't even really prepared for that one. But generically across the board, I see as being an effective part, it's like being a leader in any good position. And I've worked as a leader, as a manager and stuff for a number of years. And being a leader as well as someone is being part of the group. We have to listen, we've got to contribute, we've got to get answers from folks. We need to go ahead and put together plans, we need to understand. I think the biggest part of all of that is communication. I've led a number of teams. I've really only had 3 major jobs in my career, working from entries through leadership in all of them. And so I think that the bottom line to working within this team, and I attended a couple of the meetings, it's important, and I see that each person is a contributor. I've spent the last couple of weeks really digging in, trying to understand what's going on with the school. I've learned things I didn't realize happen in our public schools today, how things are split between general ed and special ed, and where the funds are coming from. Where I grew up, I felt the government paid for the public school. Now I realize it's me, and I'm part of you. As now being a retiree, I understand it's important for me as well as the team to understand that when the money comes in, we need to first think of the kids and what they're getting for education. And I am proud to say I saw a lot of good things in the last couple of weeks about the Thompson Public Schools. Even helping to teach my daughter that it's better than you think. And so I'm proud to take the opportunity to kind of dig in, learn, and then see what we can do, as I've done in my career, is find solutions and fix the problems. And that's what I've done as an engineer. That's what I hope to do with this team here. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniela.
So the most important characteristic, I believe, would be to be transparent to the public. We seem to have an issue with how the town perceives the school and what they think is happening. And I believe that the Board of Ed needs to be transparent and communicate as much as possible with the townspeople to let them know, like, we really are here doing the absolute best. We're not hiding anything to promote all the wonderful things that the school has. I think we need to listen to the students, the staff, the teachers, as well as our public. And we need to understand that as a Board of Ed, we are going to have some difficult decisions to make, and there are going to be things that we are going to have a hard time figuring out, but if we power through that, we will make the right choices that are best for the students so that they get the best possible education they can. Thank you.
Okay, each one of you will get a 1 minute follow-up. And we will start with Melissa.
Sure. So I think we are all in alignment that communication is so important with both the community and within the school system. I spoke about listening to what everybody has to say, and that's tricky in this town. There's the same people that are coming to the Board of Education meetings, that are attending the finance meetings, that are speaking up on social media, and then there's the rest of the town. And I think it's a challenge to get the information to them so that they can form opinions that are based on the facts of what's going on in the school system. And I look forward to helping to communicate to those people so that we can have some robust conversation going forward.
Thank you. Rick?
Sure, I agree with that. One of the things I really found interesting in the last few months is as I'm telling my daughter about some of the things going on in the town, is she didn't have a clue. And it's like, what's wrong? Why aren't we able to communicate what's going on with a future mom with kids that are going to go to the school? And I've listened to several meetings now with the selectmen and the Board of Finance talking about how can we reach out and communicate. Actually, all the last week, the communication was important. I appreciate Andrew bringing that up right in the front. It is an important piece, and the piece I think that was the most important is most of the people with the young kids that aren't in the school or looking to come to this set of schools don't know what good quality education is that's available here in the town. The pathways and so forth are a great opportunity to sell this town's educational opportunities for the future.
Thank you. Daniela?
Yeah, so to reiterate what they're saying as well, communication is going to be key, but being open, honest, listening, and understanding too that we will have to keep things professional and to ourselves. There is some information that we are going to receive that cannot be shared to the public, that we are not allowed to disclose, and we have to hope that the community will understand those situations arise, that we're not trying to hide anything, but that it is just important. We have to keep safety of our students at all costs, and so that's why we are not speaking about certain things, but always anything that we can communicate and share, we will do so.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our second question. Again, this is 2 minutes, and we will start with Rick on this. The question is, the Board of Education is faced with tough decisions regarding capital improvements versus general ed versus special ed needs. How would you decide what to fund? Again, the Board of Education is faced with tough decisions regarding capital improvements versus general ed versus special ed needs. How would you decide what to fund?
That's fine. One of the first things is the education for our children. I see, and I kind of was thinking through it last night, that education itself is a social contract between us and our citizens. And if we fail to train our young men and women, there won't be a future. And so we've talked about how the town moves forward, but it's the same with all our children. We all had the opportunity to get in education. And the important part is that while we are required to keep and fund the buildings and the roads and the rest, same with the school as part of the bylaws, if you would, from the state. You can't let the facilities fall apart. The interesting part to me was that how much of the special ed budget or the dedicated budget is fixed, and there's almost no way to change that. And since we as towns within this state and several of the states around us, we're required to pay for that education system. There's no way you can push it off. The opportunities for us are to look for ways to grow what we have so that it can help to support itself. When you're talking about how much money we spend per child, and then the same amount if you want to send the children to another district, you're still paying for it. We as taxpayers in the town will still pay for that child to go to another town. So the key for me is to look at what opportunities are first for the children, and then the general ed budget, which is the toughest part. You really don't want to cut into the teachers, the sports, the athletic, all the types of things that are extracurricular to them. And capital, unfortunately, falls to the last. But we can't let them fall apart. So it's tough decisions going forward for all of us.
Thank you. Daniela?
So to answer that question, I don't think I could pick any one of them that I could choose anyone to say this is like the top priority, right? They all are important. They all require funds. I don't think one is more important than the other. I think there will be tough decisions that have to be made, but through a combination of smart planning, partnerships, working together with the Board of Finance, with the Board of Selectmen, the administratives, the students, the staffs, we will have to pick what and where to put our money appropriately. We will have to look to other sources as well when we make these decisions, whether it's state and federal funding, whether it's partnerships with the community, but to just be able to pick like which, I guess, one I would choose, I can't. You're hurting someone somewhere, whether it's like a special education population, the general education population. We have capital expenses that are not going to go away, and that they're, we're going to have those requirements. I don't think I could truly just pick one to fund. We would have to figure out how to take our money and spread it across all the areas and fund everything, but making sure that the highest quality education is provided to the students is first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Agreed. We need all of those. We need a facility to teach our kids in, and we need to teach our kids, and they're all very important. I think historically the town has decided to put off on capital expenditures to focus on the education, because that's something that needs to happen today, here, every day. The students need to be able to learn, and so that's where the budget gets focused. And we're operating on a shoestring budget, but that's only going to work for so long. The buildings are only going to stay standing for so long until they get some attention. So I think it's important, if this is what the citizens are willing to pay today, then we focus on the education, but we need to have a longer term plan for what that's going to look like in the future when we need to spend money in other areas. Okay, now for the 1-minute rebuttal. Rick, you're up first.
Thanks. Sure. Ensure meeting the needs of the students first. The thing I thought was great, though, listening to the Board of Finance, is that they are thinking of and I'll just say it, funding the fund. The only way to have it is to have the rainy day fund. And if you let it go, there's no opportunity. And I heard how it was used to kind of get through the budget issues of referendum and so forth. But the reality is, if the school falls apart, we're in jeopardy of a lot of things falling apart. So school and the children first, and then let's keep the facilities by trying to put the nickels and dimes you can spare each time into a fund that when something's needed, you're ready. Although I've seen that there is a plan within the budget for the capital needs. So it's not as though we're not looking. All we got to do is try to stick to that plan.
Thank you. Daniela?
Don't really have anything else to add to it, just that we need to really get the town on board with the school, understand that it is the town's responsibility. It hurts all of us. It hurts. But we don't have a choice. We have public schooling, and we need to just understand that we have to fund this, and all areas need funding. Even if we decided, let's close the school, let's regionalize, let's do something that's been thrown out there, the buildings are still going to stand. We're still going to have to pay for them. The money is going to come. So for capital, the special ed kids are still going to need their funding, and that, unfortunately, we are mandated for that. We cannot just say, oh, no, we're not doing this. It's a legal issue, so we have to continue, and the students in general population need their education as well and need to be funded as best we can.
Thank you. On to the third question, and Daniela Caverly. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
60 seconds, I'll be quick.
Give it the 90.
$21.4 million. That's a huge amount of money that I think it's really hard to comprehend having a budget that size. And folks see that number and just think it's ridiculous because it's such a big number. But then when you break it down, if you take the time to look at the budget, Superintendent Smith told me the other day they needed to buy a new ice machine, that it's required for sports to have an ice machine, $3,000, just like that. And those little things add up. And I think if the community was a bit more aware and a bit more in tune with those costs and realize it's not, nobody's padding the budget, they're not spending irresponsibly, that these are things we need. And so I think education for the community is important to get the support for the budget.
Thank you. Sorry about that mix-up. Okay, for the third question, this will go to Daniela Caverly first, and the question is, what is your view on regionalization, configuration, or outsourcing the high school? Again, what is your view on regionalization, reconfiguration, or outsourcing the high school?
So closing the school, regionalizing, I believe, should be our last resort. I believe that we need to preserve Thompson's local identity, keep education close to home. These are major decisions that will impact the students, families, our community. That is something we should not take lightly. It's important to realize that there is a difference between regionalizing and closing. When you regionalize a school, you choose to send your kids and a neighboring district or more are all going to come together in one new school, essentially. You take your students, you take your budget, you take your resources, your teachers, and you become combined. And you, as parents in a community, have a say. There's a board that is created with both or all districts. However, to my knowledge, there is no neighboring towns at this time that are willing to regionalize with us. Now, when you close, that's a big one. If you decide to close the school, you're essentially outplacing these students to another district, and you will have to pay a tuition. That tuition is set by the other school. You, as parents in a community, you lose the power to choose what your kids are learning. You don't get a say in curriculums. You will not have a board representation at that school, and you risk the quality education that your kids are going to get. I know the school has conducted studies, and there's all sorts of information out there about that. I haven't looked at it myself, but I believe that what they're telling us is true and that currently it does not make sense to do those things. And I would agree.
Melissa?
As a parent taking the budget out of it, I wouldn't really be interested in any of those three strategies because I like having my child in my town where I can, zip over to watch a sports team or, see these after-school activities. So I think there's some logistics that would make it challenging for parents. As the Board of Education, however, has to look at it to be fiscally responsible for the town. And from what I understand, it still doesn't really make sense, any of those options. So regionalization would take a great deal of time and effort to coordinate if we found a town that was interested. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. It needs to be approved by the state, and there's just a lot of logistics that seem like it's probably in the short term not a reasonable option. Outsourcing, it's a great idea if we can save money, but the reality is right now we can't save money outsourcing when you're looking at not just the cost of tuition, but the cost of transportation and having to outsource all of our special education students. It's been reviewed in 2020 and it was reviewed again in 2023, and both times the high school budget for Thompson was significantly lower than Woodstock and Putnam. Furthermore, outsourcing, as Daniela mentioned, we lose a lot of control over the curriculum and what goes on with the kids. We can't predict what the tuition will be 6 months from now or next year. And so there's just a lot of challenges, and until the numbers flip and where it makes sense to move in that direction, I think it's great to check in every couple of years and make sure that that's still true, or if it's not, then have that discussion. Reconfiguration, I know there's going to be a report coming up about that. I'm not quite clear how that would have a significant savings for us, and it sounds like there would be a cost to changing that would have to be factored in. So again, short term, we probably wouldn't see a big savings, but it's something to look at, and we'll see what the numbers show.
Thank you. Mr. Medeiros?
Sure, thank you. On regionalization, I thought it was interesting. It sounds too easy, but it's not. And the idea I see in a town in Southridge where I'm near, there's a vocational school, at least different kids come in, but it's more specialized education. And so I thought, and I heard a great opportunity presented the other day, is that if we can do more to try to bring students here. So there's opportunities within the pathways that are currently available here in Thompson, versus having to send our kids to another district or one of the local towns, or if we had another centralized school set up, what can we do to just attract kids here? What types of, there was a great thought is that there's a lot of things we're missing for our future. There are a lot of trades, not only in things like waste management and town management, infrastructure, facility types of work that our kids aren't getting trained to do. And that's going to be needed because most of those folks are retiring. And so the opportunity, I think, here for Thompson is not to originally just look at, we're going to create this central thing somewhere, but what can we do to attract kids back this way versus sending our kids the other way? That's what I'd be looking to try to present and see what's out there for us to do.
Thank you. You each now have a 1-minute follow-up to that question. Daniela?
So like Melissa mentioned, I'm a very active parent in my children's life, and I'm very fortunate to be able to be an active parent. If we were to close or regionalize, would I still be able to do all that I do? I'm not entirely sure. I hope I could. But I don't think right now is the time to have these discussions. I do believe we need to have these discussions, and they're going to be hard discussions to have, and that they should regularly and openly be talked about. But according to the analysis as we've been given, it doesn't make sense right now. I am curious to know what the new reconfiguration is. I have not heard much about that, and so I'm looking forward to hearing that. But at this time, I think it would be best if we stay with what we currently have, especially in the cost savings aspect.
Thank you. Melissa?
Again, I think it's great to ask the question. I think it's good to think outside the box and not just continue forward without looking for alternatives. But at this time, it doesn't financially make sense. And I think there's a component of it of hometown pride that we would lose with at least the options for outsourcing or regionalization. We have this great portrait of a graduate which builds our students. It's a reflection of what the town thinks our students should be when they finish their career through these schools. And we are able to design a program and a curriculum that supports the traits and the knowledge that we want the students to have. And so I think that's important at this time to keep within Thompson while it makes financial sense to do so.
Thank you. Rick?
Thank you. So some of my current understanding in the that I've learned the last few weeks is that unfortunately our enrollment has continued to come down. And that's what kind of pushes some of the ideas, well, why can't we move the high school? Regionalization or otherwise. And so one of the things maybe we can start to look at, and I think I heard in some of the discussions that some discussions are going on about what we can do with other schools within the adjoining towns. But I'm in favor of trying to see what we can do to create a board, a public and an administrative board with the school to start looking at that. And then let's start to report that back. But if the town and the child population continues to shrink, we're going to have to make a decision. My concern is that ultimately there will be a break-even point. I think Melissa brought up maybe as much as $2 million more to send our high school out than what leaving them in keeping the current school open.
Thank you. We'll move on to our fourth question, and Ms. Dragon will be the first responder for this. Technology is the forefront of the world we live in. Where do you stand on phones, watches, computers in the classroom and/or school in general? Again, technology is the forefront of the world we live in. Where do you stand on phones, watches, computers in the classroom and/or school in general? Melissa, 2 minutes.
So I will say when I get to visit middle schools and high schools as part of the outreach for my work, schools in the classroom drive me crazy, and I feel for the teachers that have to deal with them. I've seen different scenarios where they have to put them in boxes and not touch them during the class, but they're still buzzing in the boxes on the lab tables in the middle of class. So I understand that it can be challenging for teachers to educate with all these distractions. At the same time, I don't go anywhere without my phone. And it's important for communication and knowledge and knowing where you're supposed to be and what's going on in the world. And so I think it's, challenging but important to craft policies that keep our kids safe but also allow learning to happen. Do you agree?
Thank you. Mr. Medeiros.
That's a great one. Probably 90% of the world has their personal phone. They carry their life around with them on it. And I see my granddaughter, she knows how to talk to Roku and so forth. And one of the comments I had thought through is that they've quickly become the ruler of our lives. And I see that happen with a 2.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. I would come from back in the day where the teacher said you don't get to have that in the room. I think it just blew by us so fast that it's part of our life. So how in the world do you stop it? The answer is, yeah, you can generate a policy, but how do you get the world as it is today to drop technology? I think we just need to learn how to control it, and that'll be interesting. I just see it already happening that the little children hear their parents say, Google, find me this, and then they're talking to Google on their parents' phone. I don't know how we stop where we're heading. Controlling it in the schools so you can control what's being educated is important. Great topic for us. And I think we need to bring like these young folks here into that and see what they say. I'm sure they can say, I can't live without my phone. And so that's going to be a challenge for our society, period. I'm sure we all know that we have a president who tweets every day. And so it goes to the top and it goes around the world. So how are we going to stop a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old? But thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Caverly.
So I definitely have mixed feelings about technology in our schools, whether it's a cell phone, the watch, the amount of learning that they do on the electronic devices. There is a time and place for electronics. Like Melissa said, my phone's in my pocket. I have a watch on. It's my lifeline. I have a million things in my calendar to keep me organized. I believe it's important for the older middle school kids as well as the high school kids to have these in use because they're going to need it when they get to college. They're going to need it in the real world. Is it as necessarily important for our elementary school kids? I'm not entirely sure. I see my child who's in first grade and I'm like, what does she need a computer for? I believe the face-to-face interaction with the teacher is the best possible way to educate our kids. Sometimes I've heard that some of our kids are on computers way too much in the school. I cannot attest to that. It's just things that I've heard. But yeah, there is a need for them. They can also get us into trouble. What you post does not go away. What you see is there forever, no matter what. But there should be some degree of use of electronics. I don't believe our kids should have their phones. I can personally say I've seen in the past, we've had experiences here at the school. I have found out through social media or phone calls from other parents and friends before I got Melinda's phone call, before I received a message from the school. And that's not okay because now I'm getting calls from other people, you're frantic, you don't know what's going on. So yeah, the kids can have their phones and that's great, but they really need to understand when to use them and when it's appropriate, and just keep school. The electronics can be used afterwards and in between.
Thank you. Melissa, your 1-minute follow-up.
For the adults in the room, do you all remember when we had keyboarding classes and introduction to computer classes? Now my son can take my phone and download an app and teach me how to use it. It's incredible that the pace of technology. My son will also tell you that he's the only kid in 5th grade that doesn't have a phone. But that's not true because I've talked to the other parents and a lot of the other kids don't have phones yet. I've been reluctant for a couple of reasons to give him a phone. One, he's going to drop it and lose it. So, we need that responsibility. And 2, I'm terrified of the dangers that go along with having access to technology. And I haven't yet had the opportunity to learn the best ways to protect them. In a recent newsletter that went home or email that went out, there were some suggestions for social media safety. And I think there needs to be education provided to both students and parents to protect the kids as best as we can from some of the dangers of technology.
Thank you. On to question number 5, 2 minutes. And
I'll just do
what?
a quick follow-up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rick.
It's all right, my dear.
I did that the last time too. Don't worry about it.
So
yes, go ahead.
simply from what I could see is, if we can help to establish a policy that defines some rules for our kids and then help to enforce it, that's what we need to do as leaders and parents and guidance for our kids. And hopefully with the Board of Ed, we can help do that. That's it.
Okay. On to question 5.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yes. All right, the night's getting along. All right, go ahead, 1 minute.
So as you mentioned, my kids can definitely run circles around me when it comes to electronics. I like to say I'm kind of old school, but then I tease my kids and say, I'm older than Google, guys. Like, I really am older than Google, right? And they think it's funny. They think it's a joke because for them, technology's always been there. And it's great. It's wonderful. Instant in your hand, you have knowledge and power, and that's great. But we really do have to be aware of what it is that these kids are doing and seeing, and we should come up with some kind of official policy across all platforms, all 3 schools, to make sure that it's being followed and it is consistently being followed for all three schools. If we're going to make a policy, it needs to be across the board.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is the real number 5. Okay, and Rick, you will be first. What role do you believe the school should play in supporting students' social and emotional well-being? What role do you believe the school should play in supporting students' social and emotional well-being?
The two parts of that one, start then with social. Obviously, I think I remember back to high school, and that became your learning opportunity, how you reacted with the other students, the kids, the boys and girl activities, so on and so forth. It's the place where we learn, where we grow, where we learn to understand how to live with one another. It's the place where if you're not getting good social interaction at home, that we have a chance to reach out and understand from our teachers, or maybe there's a tutor or someone that can help the students to grow in that manner. Leading to the thought that in the emotional side, it's probably the most challenging thing I've thought of in the last number of days trying to prepare for this is that the schools seem to have become the place for the emotional situations of kids to be resolved. And we talked around it a little bit today, is that the high cost of special education in many cases is not just the speech impediments or math requirement types of things, but it's truly situational, emotional needs of our kids. It's sad because it does show on where our society is today. And it puts a bigger challenge on us as a community because we're being asked to fund it. And at least 2/3 of it, because the state funds part and we fund part. So it's a grand issue for our children to think that there's so many issues that many kids have to be on a drug to be able to survive in the classroom is just crazy to me. But it is the situation. So it's something that we have to look at as a board and work together on.
Thank you. Daniela.
All right, so the dynamics of schools have really changed over the years. Schools are expected to do everything at this point. The teachers are not just teachers anymore. Your kid doesn't just come to school and get taught math, reading, writing. Teachers are expected to do so much more than that. I'm not sure if it's fair to put mental health on the schools to have to take that on. We have wonderful counselors. We already have great staff that are supporting any and all needs that our kids may have. But to put even more of I don't want to say burden, but I guess a burden onto the school for that, I don't feel like they should. I don't believe we should have any kind of bullying. I don't believe any kids should feel unsafe at school. But I believe these things have to start at home, that parents have to be involved in their children's mental well-being and play a crucial part in what that's going to look like. Yes, the kids are going to come to school and they're going to socialize, and they get plenty of that, and they always have. I mean, you start at kindergarten and you move all the way up and you're going to socialize. But in terms of like mental support, I'm not sure it's the place for the school to have that priority.
Thank you. Melissa, 2 minutes.
Than they might with waking hours of their kids at home. And as a mom, I hate that. It's really hard to send a child off to school and have them come home with opinions and thoughts that are presented from somebody else, but that's part of going to school and getting an education. Learning is happening all the time in all sorts of ways, and it's not just the ABCs and the 50 states in the country. They're learning cues from other students and from the teachers and support staff on how to act and how to behave. And that's happening whether it's intentional or not. I went to the middle school open house before my son started school this year, and they talked about how hard that transition is, and they talked about now the kids are going to be moving to different classrooms, and I thought, I'm so glad that they can't get a grade for switching classrooms because my kid would fail. The organization it takes, right, to get your books together and not drop your pencil and remember where you're going, and I thought, oh, this is going to be rough. And as I'm having this thought, Principal Kim was saying, but don't worry, we've got you. We're going to teach the kids how to transition. And it was really eye-opening to me to think about that. They're not just teaching math and science in English language. They are teaching life skills, and some of that includes social behaviors and emotional behaviors. So it is part of everyday interaction. And, certainly with the challenges of being a kid these days and, so many emotional and social challenges that there needs to be a little bit more focus on helping these kids manage their emotions and behaviors as they're learning the facts and figures.
Thank you. Rick, 1 minute follow-up.
I think the only thing I'd like to add, because it's so prevalent in the country, if not around the world today, is just this identity situation for the kids. I truly believe in boys and girls. I don't agree with all the other stuff. And I feel sad that you'd love to protect your kids, to grow up and be like you. But to see them exposed to stuff that you don't want them to be part of, that's a challenge. I understand in asking that question, it's not a big an issue here in Thompson at this point, but it's around us. So I think we have to be prepared as a board and as a school to be able to deal with that. So it's just one of those situations that as parents and grandparents, we got to learn how to work with.
Thank you. Ms. Caverly.
So I know that the schools already are doing more than enough for social emotional. There are many programs. The middle school has just started something Wednesday mornings where they're focusing on certain topics around mental health, and whether it's exercising, they play music over the intercom. So I know that the schools are doing things. I just believe that we shouldn't add more on to what they're already doing. We do need to, as parents, take some of the responsibility back. It is hard because, yes, most kids are spending their time away from us. But it is our responsibility as parents to make sure that we are parenting our kids and helping their mental, emotional, social well-being, and not let the pressures of society onto our kids.
Thank you. Melissa, 1 minute follow-up, please.
I'm very thankful for the experiences I've had with my son in school so far, with teachers supporting him in his emotional needs. From the time when I had to email, his first grade teacher and say, we just had to euthanize our dog and he might be a little off today, and the teacher met him with a hug. I'm still sad about it. To the time when, he didn't want to participate in field day, and the teacher reached out to the guidance counselor, who reached out to me to say, is everything okay? He wasn't himself today. And I said, he just hates water sports, so he just, didn't want to participate in that. But they were keyed into something being a little bit off. So having that ability to communicate and check in with each side to help, for the well-being of our students is so important, and I'm very thankful that the teachers and administration are so supportive of that.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to our closing statements, and these will be 1.5 minutes. And Rick, we are going to start with you.
Sure, thank you very much. So in a few short weeks, I dug in pretty hard into what I thought I saw was going on in Thompson Public Schools, and I got an overview. And from listening to the ladies as well who have kids in the schools, I think I've still missed a bunch. But as a participant here, I really think that there's an opportunity that What I hope to see is that we not only continue to teach the reading, writing, and arithmetics and how technology works in our kids' lives and don't let it overtake them. I think a role as part of the Board of Eds to look critically not only at the educational part of what goes on in the curriculum, but what happens in what the reaction is. We just talked about the influence that the school has and the external influence that it has on our kids. I think it's important that we provide a great place for the kids to learn. And it's obviously more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. But as a taxpayer, I am also committed that there's a lot of folks who aren't willing to step up and pay for what that, as Melissa pointed out, 21 million of a $31 million budget is a lot of money. But it's important. And without it, our kids aren't just going to get to the next level. I thank the town, Thompson Together, for doing the meeting tonight. It's the most important thing we can do is have communication. And so I hope you'll vote for me and Daniela and the Republican team on November 4th.
Thank you. Daniela.
Thank you, Thompson Together, the RTC, the DTC, my family, and most importantly, the residents of Thompson for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a parent, volunteer, and community member, I'm deeply invested in the success of our schools, not just for my own children, but for every student in Thompson. I'm running because I care deeply for the school, our kids, and the community, and I believe that together we can continue to make real and lasting progress. If elected, I'll focus on advocating for resources our school needs, supporting the student success, and ensuring our teachers and staff have the support that they deserve. I'll listen, collaborate, and work hard to ensure that our schools are a place the community feels proud of. I look forward to the opportunity to serve on the Board of Education, and on Election Day, I respectfully ask that you vote for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Last but not least. Here we go. So my son has been up here on this stage several times already in his short school career for many, many holiday concerts and spring concerts. And, you know, before I had a kid, I never thought I'd be interested in that. That sounded like, you know, having a root canal might be more fun than going to one of these. How wrong I was about that. I love going to these concerts. And it's not just, you know, the girl who's dancing to her own beat, and it's not laughing at the kid who's picking his nose, which is funny unless it's your kid. My favorite part is when the class files out and they're getting up in the bleachers and getting organized. And every kid, maybe they're excited, maybe they're nervous, they're looking around, right? And then they see it. Their mom, their dad, a neighbor, a grandparent, a familiar face in the audience. And they can stand a little bit taller, a little bit more confident, knowing that somebody showed up, knowing that they're safe, they're loved, and supported. Just by sitting in these chairs, they're giving that sense of safety and security. I try to show up in all the little ways that I can, whether it's contributing to the never-ending fundraisers for the playground and all the other things, whether it's, you know, cheering for the soccer team, and you know, volunteering to chaperone. Now I'm ready to support the students in a bigger way by showing up on the Board of Education. And I ask you, and thank you for showing up and supporting today, and ask you to show up and support on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the evening is just about over. I'd like to thank you all again for coming to this forum and taking part in asking questions and becoming educated in the decisions that you're going to be making. Thank you again to Thompson Together and all your hard work for this unique forum that most communities just do not get in their own towns. My personal gratitude for all of the candidates who are running for all of the boards and commissions in our community. Unless you've been there, you will never know what it's like and what is demanded of you to be this volunteer. So best of luck, and again, thank you for reminding everybody, please vote on November 4th, and always bring a neighbor if they can't make it. Thank you very much. Take care.